Welcome to Rebirth Podcast. Tonight, we're going to be talking about navigating pregnancy, loss, and finding purpose from heartbreak to hope with therapist Simone Burke-Cousins. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe to tonight's podcast.
Out of the ashes we will soar to a destiny we can't ignore. Heartbeats echo through the night with every dream and endless flight. Together strong, let's break the mold. Our rebirth and stories told. It's time to renew, rebuild, restore. Unlock the dreams we've been waiting for. Rise up higher, more and more. With every breath, a new dawn's roar.
Welcome to Rebirth Podcast. I'm your host, Shea Marriott. Good evening, and thank you guys for tuning in. Tonight, we have a special show tonight. I'm so excited to be sitting here with therapist Simone Burke-Cousins. Hello.
Hello.
Welcome to Rebirth. Yes. Welcome to the couch.
Thank you. It's comfy.
So before we get started, I want to share what our topic is going to be tonight. And I will put it out there. It is going to be a sensitive topic. So if you feel that is a little bit too much for you to handle, it's okay. It's okay. But I promise you, it's going to be very, very informative. We're going to be talking about heartbreak to hope, navigating pregnancy loss, and finding purpose, right? So this is a very, very this is a passion for you, this topic, and obviously you were talking about your story and just finding your purpose. So can you just introduce yourself to our Rebirth audience and just share your story?
All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Simone, and I'm a therapist, as she said. I have two beautiful girls, but it was not an easy road to get them. All right. So where do you want me to start?
Well, we can at the beginning.
beginning.
Yeah, at the very beginning.
All right. So growing up, of course, you were taught to get your education, get a car, get a house, get married, and then the baby will follow, right?
Yeah.
Or babies.
Yeah.
In my case, that did not happen, right? I did everything that I was taught to do or was expected to do. But when I decided to go on that venture, it was heartbreak after heartbreak after heartbreak, and I could go on and on and on and on. I did everything that I was supposed to do. I took the prenatal vitamins, went to my doctor's checkups, everything, but I kept having miscarriages after miscarriages. I think in total, I've had 7 miscarriages.
Wow.
And lost 8 babies because one of those miscarriages happened to be twin boys.
Twins.
Yeah.
Wow.
So it was a struggle and it was heartbreaking, as you'd imagine. But that's a part of why I'm here as a therapist.
Yeah.
Because prior to that, I was trying to figure out what exactly I wanted to do. Yes, I'm a social worker. Yes, I'm a therapist, but I wanted to specialize in something.
Right.
I didn't want to be a generalist. And it took a lot of tears, and my tears turned into two beautiful testaments.
Yeah.
But that's pretty much what led me to specialize in grief counseling as well as perinatal mental health issues, right?
Yeah.
Because it wasn't an easy journey and it affected me physically, of course, mentally, spiritually, emotionally. And it is still affecting me to date. It's something that, even though this has happened from, so it was 2015, 2016, 2017, 2018, 2019, and I had my one daughter in 2020 and another in 2021. So I can't count. So between 2015 and 2019, it was hard. It took a toll on me, and I believe it took a toll on my marriage somewhat, and even my relationship with God I didn't pray for like a whole year. Like, pray for what, right? I did everything I was supposed to do, and here I am struggling. And I tell you what was painful for me was, I think it was the very first miscarriage that happened back in Jamaica, right? And I mean, we have our challenges, but I was placed in a room where there were all pregnant moms. Well, they just had their babies, right? And I lost my baby and I was stuck into a corner by myself, and I had to watch everybody just cuddle their babies. And I got upset, of course. I
Yeah.
was working at the Ministry of Health and I'm like, this is wrong. I just lost my babies and here I am watching people who did not want
Yes.
their children, because these were younger kids. They
Okay.
didn't want their children, which some of them openly said, and I wanted mine. And here I am in a corner crying because I
Wow.
had a miscarriage. So it was pretty hard. And of course, that highlights the lack of resources and systemic flaws that exist.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
again, just my experience pretty much led me to this road where I'm able to talk about my story. Yes, it's a sensitive topic and there is still some amount of stigma attached to it,
Yeah.
but a lot of times things that we experience is not really for ourselves,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Right.
Yeah, we have to go through it. Did I have to go through all of that to learn the lessons I learned? No, but for whatever reason, I was chosen to undergo these miscarriages. And as such, I'm able to share my story. And in sharing my story, a lot of people would have come forward and said, thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
You're the first person I've shared this with, because there's still some stigma attached to it, right?
Yeah.
When you lose a child, your whole being as a woman is shaken. You're
Mm-hmm.
supposed to be able to have a child, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's something that's supposed to be normal. But when your body fails you, of course, it affects your self esteem, because
Right.
who am I? It's that your identity is tied to being a mom, being a wife. Again, these are dictated by
Mm-hmm.
society, but whether or not I know it's dictated by society, I'm still a human being, so I'm still going to
Yeah.
be affected. So,
Yeah.
yes, it just highlights the flaws that exist. But again, having gone through all of these challenges led me to where I am today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Simone, if you guys are just joining us, we're talking to therapist Simone Burke-Cousins, and we're talking about how she took her pain to purpose. Simone shared with us that she had 7 miscarriages,
I think I
but
lost count.
total lost a
Yeah.
total of 8 children.
Yeah.
8 being that there was twin boys as well. So the first thing comes to my mind is just the resiliency that you seem to have to keep going.
Was it really
Was it
resiliency or
resiliency?
craziness? Sometimes I question it, like,
Was it craziness?
yeah, are you crazy? Like, I in the moment, like, I wasn't
Yeah.
even thinking about it as being resilient. I just knew I
Mhm.
wanted a child,
Yeah.
coming from a place where I didn't want children.
Mhm.
So I knew I wanted a child, and I mean, it happened over and over again. So I guess in hindsight, it was really resilience,
Yeah, very
but at the
much
time, it
so.
just did not seem. I was just trying to work towards something I wanted.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
Was there any moment for you where you just was like, "Okay, that's it. I'm done."
Yes, after my twin boys, right?
Okay.
I did everything I was told to do. Went to a doctor in New
Mhm.
York and he introduced me to the keto diet and I changed my whole lifestyle. Got pregnant after that. Everything was going normally. So
Mhm.
we did the scans. I knew what I was having from earlier out. And this was the most painful one for me because I actually gave birth,
Okay.
right? So the condition at the time was
Wow.
PROM. Can't remember what that means, but the long and short of it is that the premature rupture of membrane. I don't remember what the other P is
Mm.
for. So basically, the sac that holds the
Mhm.
baby, it got ruptured.
Okay.
So I lost that one. The other one was just at the wrong place at the wrong time. So they sent me home. It was a Christian hospital, so they weren't going to do the, what do you call it, the DNC or whatever it is at that
Right.
time. So they said, okay, you have a choice. You can go and get it aborted. And again, I'm like,
Oh my
get it
goodness.
aborted or just sit and wait. So of course, turn to my friend Google to see what the possibility would
Right.
be if I, stayed throughout the course. And I'm like, you know what? I'm still gonna wait it out to see if it has happened to people before where the water
Mhm.
build back around the baby. That did
Mhm.
not happen in my case. So I stayed there and
Mm.
I was just in bed for days. Days. My husband bought coconut water and
Mhm.
whatever he thought that would help to build up back the fluids. And one Saturday morning, I just felt pain from left, right, and center. And at the time, we were living on the third floor. So it was just hard to go down, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
And I'm getting to the part where it was the most painful. Of course, everything hurts, but went into the hospital in labor, all of that, had them.
Wow.
And it's so funny. This month, this time of year is a tricky time of year for me because I celebrate my birthday in May.
Yeah.
Mother's Day is in May, but I
Yeah.
also lost 3 babies in May. My
Yeah.
birthday is the 4th, and I had a miscarriage on the 5th of May. And the
Mhm.
twins passed on the 25th and the 26th of May. And I always joke about it that if they were alive, they would be twins, but they would share two separate
Two
birthdays,
separate
right?
birthdays.
Yeah, so I
Wow.
went through all of that. And again, when I was helping professionals, I think sometimes we really need to take a break because we can become overwhelmed by what we see daily and it impacts how we service the people we interact with on a daily
Absolutely.
basis. So I think more could have been done from the end of the providers, because had the baby went home, no, I've never had a baby before. And in my mind, in order for me to lactate, I would have
Mhm.
to have a baby, like a
Mhm.
live baby. No. 2 days later, I started to produce breast milk. So I
Mm.
broke down all over again, because
Mhm.
again, nobody told me that this
Right.
is what to expect. So that was
Right.
horrible. And I really thought I was going to die. I
Yeah.
felt that way. I would get up and move from one room and go into a darker room. And I would just stay there and cry all day. Really didn't care if I
Wow.
lived or died. It was just a hard time for me. But
Yeah.
again, I guess I persisted and persevered and went through it. Again, it was difficult, and I tried to speak with the nurses I encountered, and I'm like, you could have said this or this. I was brushed
They
to the
didn't prepare
side, like,
you. Yeah, at all.
yeah. And again, I don't want to. It's not a case where I'm bashing service providers, but I'm just speaking of my experience.
Right.
Going back to go forward in 2017 when I had the second miscarriage. I almost slapped a doctor at the hospital
Mm.
because while actively losing the child, she's like, "How old are you?" And I told her my age, and she's like, "Oh, you're young. You can have another baby.
Mm.
You're fine." And I'm like, I can't say that on air, but I just walked away because if I didn't, I probably wouldn't be sitting here
Right,
today.
right.
Again, you don't say stuff like that to anybody, but somebody who's
Yeah.
actively. I found out like 5 minutes ago that I had a miscarriage,
Yeah.
and this is what you're choosing to say. And she was very dismissive, but
Wow.
I did meet a nurse that, and it's unfortunate again because she just had a miscarriage and she
Mm.
was in the labor room with me holding my hand throughout my miscarriage, and I was feeling for myself but I was also feeling
Feeling
for
for
her. I'm
her.
thinking like, why is she even here?
Yeah.
Where's our supervisor? Where's the powers that be? Why is she
Yeah.
here? So it was really hard. So that was the most painful one for me, to answer your question, because I actually gave birth. And sharing a little story. I don't think I've said this even to my husband, but my older daughter looks just like the twins because they were already
Oh,
shaped out.
wow.
They just needed to grow. So it was maybe like last week in the morning. She liked to come in my arm. I don't know why
Yeah.
she thinks she's still small, but she likes to come in my arms, and I look down on her sideways because I got the pictures and their hats and everything too. Yeah.
Oh,
And when I looked at her, I saw the twin boy.
them.
I started to cry. And she was looking at me
Oh,
like, what the hell is wrong with you? And I just held her a little bit tighter. And
yeah.
every morning, I see, just looking at her, I see them, and
Mm.
I know that's leading up to the time I usually go back and look at the pictures because I store them in a safe
Yeah.
place. And every now and again, I'll go back and look at them. But
Wow.
yeah, that was really hard for me, that one. All of them were, but that one was really, really, really hard.
Yeah.
Obviously, because I had them and went through the whole motions and then came home empty-handed and was rewarded with a bill that was almost
Oh
$100,000.
my
Yeah,
goodness.
so
Oh my
yeah.
goodness. Simone, when you're going through something like this, like you said, it makes you question yourself as a woman
Oh,
and all of those things. I know you said that it took a toll on your marriage as
a
well.
little bit, yeah.
Um, how were you able to come out of that space and really start to kind of rebuild not only just your marriage but just yourself?
I'm still rebuilding,
Okay.
especially
Okay.
myself.
Yeah.
Because you'll always ask the question like, did I do something or could I
Mhm.
have done something differently? So there are
Mhm.
days when, I don't sink into it because I'll never be over it because you don't just get over losing anything or
Absolutely not.
anybody you love. But
Yeah.
I'm somebody who likes to talk about my experience. I'm not
Mhm.
ashamed of it. I didn't do anything wrong. And even if I did, me sharing my story would be a learning experience for somebody else. So just talking to my friends, I have very supportive friends. I have very
Good.
supportive family members. My husband was there. So I was able to talk my way through it. I was angry at God. I'm coming from a place where I was starting to question God. I question
Right.
God,
Yeah.
the God that I serve. I don't think he would get mad if I say, why me?
Yeah.
That's where I'm coming from. But
Yeah.
I slowly rebuilt myself, started to pray again
Mm-hmm.
and all of that. But just talking to people who will listen and yeah, just sharing my story helps me to this day
Yeah.
to kind of get through just those losses.
Was there was each pregnancy different of the cause of losing it, or was it the same situation that you were dealing
All
with?
right. So prior to the loss in 2019, that was like there were I don't remember, 16, 17, 18, 19 weeks, somewhere around there. So they
Mm-hmm.
were older than in 2017. I'm going back again. So the baby I lost in 2017, by calendar age, I was at 21 weeks. But
Okay.
what I passed out was a big mass that they said that the baby stopped growing at 14 weeks.
Oh wow.
So I,
Wow.
being who I am, I asked questions. Can
Yeah.
you run some tests? Blah blah blah. They took the mass and I never heard anything back from them. Of course, I reached out and you get shoved to the side. So don't know the cause of that. I think one of them was trisomy something 13, 17. But what they were saying is that that baby wouldn't have lived past a year anyway. And if they did, they would have, severe challenges. The other five, six last count, they were just like in the early stages. So it was just chalk up to, oh, it happens. It's not
Oh
uncommon.
wow.
And I'm like, how can it be that it just happens when this is
Yeah.
1, 2, 3, 4? It doesn't make sense. But
Yeah.
again, sometimes they don't want you to ask questions. Maybe they don't have the answers. Maybe they feel like you're challenging their position. But I did not quite get the answers that I wanted, and I still don't have the answers that I needed. But I guess you have to make peace with what is, what was. And again, I have two beautiful girls.
You do.
Yeah.
You
So,
do. Yeah.
yes.
Yeah. So I know that there has been a lot of conversation surrounding women of color and maternal health and
Mhm.
maybe not getting the proper care and all of those things. Is there anything you want to speak about on that?
I have a lot to say. So,
Yeah. Yeah, because I know there's someone's watch. I know that there are people that are watching that either had very similar experiences or maybe even thinking about having children and maybe your story can help and what
Mhm.
are some of the things, the questions to ask, what are the things to look out for, and
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, statistics, I guess statistics don't lie. So
Mhm.
Black women face greater challenges than our other counterparts.
Mhm.
A lot of that is rooted, I guess, in history. I don't know where we for some reason we bear pain more than other people, or
Mhm.
that's what
Mhm.
the narrative is. So, oh, you're strong, you
Yeah.
can pull through the pain. Oh, you exaggerate. If you're in pain and you're wailing, you're exaggerating. You're just doing the
Yeah.
most. So what I can encourage people to do is to advocate for yourself.
Mhm.
If you go to one doctor and they're not telling you what you want to hear,
Yeah.
go to somebody else. Don't be afraid to
Yeah.
find somebody who looks like you. So everybody went to med school, everybody went to therapy school. Wherever you go to school, we all have the same qualifications, but we all don't perform equally, if you get what
Right.
I'm saying. So
Right.
for me, in my situation, I would prefer to go to a doctor that looks like me, because I don't
Mhm.
feel like going through miscarriages. I don't feel like I need to answer certain questions because you don't get it.
Mhm.
I don't want to explain at that time. In a different situation, yeah, I'll be happy to walk you through it, but I want somebody who is understanding of where I'm coming from, not necessarily by experience, but
Mhm.
we share a history or something in common. There's a
Yeah.
common thread that binds us together. So advocate for yourself, advocate for yourself, advocate for yourself, right? If something is feeling off, trust your gut. Your
Mhm.
gut is never wrong. I want to push it and say it's never wrong. If you feel like, I remember once I was feeling cramps, right? And talking to somebody, oh, it's just cramps. No, I have a history.
Yeah.
So I went to the ER everything was fine. But it could have been a case where I'm like, it's just cramps, let me not go, and then something happens. So if you feel like something is wrong,
Mm-hmm.
don't be afraid to have it checked and double check. So again, advocate for yourself. Don't be afraid to speak up. At the end of the day, you are the one who will be affected. So
Yeah.
if I don't leave anything else with the listeners and viewers, advocate for yourself and just pay attention to the statistics. You have pay attention to the statistics. Do your research. Read what's out there in terms of reviews. I mean, if
Mm-hmm.
you see something that's all bad, I would encourage you to go there. If it's all good, I still question it.
Mm-hmm.
So find a happy medium, go through the reviews for yourself. Again, ask questions. If this OB isn't working for you, go to somebody else. There is somebody who out there who will listen to you and
Yeah.
give you the attention that you need.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I've been hearing too, even when it comes down to hysterectomies,
Mm-hmm.
rather it's partial or full, that's also high in women of
Mm-hmm.
color, that um providers tend to push that more on women of color
Huh.
than they do um
Yeah. Yeah.
our
Mm-hmm.
our counterparts. And um that's also concerning. And to be honest with you, back in 2017, I had to have a partial hysterectomy, but the information that I know now, I didn't know then.
Yeah.
I didn't hear it until afterwards, and I almost lost my life.
Mm-hmm.
I went in, and it was supposed to be an overnight thing, and yeah, I did come out, but that next day, my good friend Levante, she had to rush me back to the hospital. My stomach looked like I was about 10 months pregnant.
Mm.
It had blowed up so bad, and when I got there, come to find out I was septic.
Yeah.
you know um Organs, everything was like shutting down, and I ended up being in the hospital for 3 months. I had no idea that this was a thing
It is.
you know
Mhm. I met this young lady, don't remember where, but when she woke up, everything was gone.
mm.
It was like, oh, we just pretty much made this. I mean, I understand that some things are life and
Mm-hmm.
death, but in her case, it really was not life and death. They just made
Yeah.
a choice to. She didn't have any children,
Oh my
so
God, I
she
couldn't
her
imagine.
dreams of becoming a mother was taken from her without even the proper information. Give me a chance to decide what I want to do,
Yeah,
as
yeah.
opposed to making a. I don't know if I'm a kind of parent.
Right,
What gives you the authority to make this decision
right,
over something that's irreversible?
right.
So, when I met her, she was at a deep, dark place, understandably so, because she lost everything and didn't have a choice in the
Mhm,
matter. So, a
mhm.
lot of things are high. Even what do you call it? The perinatal mental health disorders,
Yeah.
it's higher among Black women than white
Mm.
women than Asian women. It's just, and for different reasons. So
Yeah,
again, we need to advocate for ourselves, ask the right questions. Don't be afraid to seek services. The services are there for all of us to access.
yeah.
Again, if you're not pleased with something, go somewhere else. There are doctors out there, I believe, or nurses or practitioners that will take the time to,
Absolutely.
of all different shades and colors, because I've had good experience with
Mhm,
people from other races. It's
mhm.
just to find the right person. But
Yeah,
again, for the thousandth time, just speak up for yourself. If you can't do it, ask somebody who is more vocal than you to go
that
with
can
you and ask the
advocate for
right
you.
questions,
Yeah,
right? Because if
yeah.
we don't know, we don't know.
Exactly.
Right? And if we have, it boils down to personality too. Again, I'm somebody who asks questions
Yeah.
and seek out the answers that I need. So,
And I think that's probably the biggest thing, right? What questions am I supposed to ask?
and I didn't know
You
until I
know?
actually experienced it. And
Yeah.
again, that's a part of why I share my story. I'm like,
Mhm.
no, when I went through this, I didn't know this, but here's the information. So if you ever find yourself in that situation,
Mhm.
consider asking these questions. I know somebody who had two stillbirths, and I'm like,
Mm.
ask for a circlage, go to a perinatalogist. I didn't know what a perinatalogist was until
Mm.
I kept losing babies. So I had to see a OB as well as a
Can you
perinatalogist.
explain what that
I
is?
don't know. A perinatalogist is somebody who, it's a, I don't want to say that, but they more specialize in cases like
These
mine,
type of
recurring
cases.
pregnancy
Okay.
losses, as
Okay.
to what the book definition is, but I know I
Got
liked
you.
mine. I saw him in tandem with my regular OB,
Mm-hmm.
so he would be the one. I had to go to the doctor every other week and the
Mm-hmm.
hospital every other week for an ultrasound.
Yeah.
So while it was comforting, the ultrasound was comforting. I remember one day I'm like, I am not going nowhere. I don't want to see nobody. I don't want nobody tell me good morning. I was just sulking and I
Yeah.
was just tired,
Yeah.
because this is throughout the pregnancy. I didn't enjoy any of
And
my
that was
pregnancies.
for both
Yeah.
babies.
Any
Okay.
pregnancy I have to have a circlage. Otherwise the babies
Mm-hmm.
will just fall right out.
Oh my
Right. So
goodness.
I just didn't feel like it. I didn't want to be happy. I don't want nobody talking to me. So I didn't go. And they called and they were nice. And why didn't you show up today? Because I did not want to. That's just how I felt. But
Mm-hmm.
again, there are people out there that will help.
Yeah.
I don't remember what I was saying, but what was I saying?
That's
I'm so passionate that sometimes I just jump from
okay.
one
That's
point to the other.
okay. Yeah, that's okay. But I think that this conversation is needed because it's you hear these things,
Hmm.
you hear the conversations, but to actually have someone sitting here that
Mm,
has experience as much as you've experienced.
yeah.
And yes, at the end, the blessing was to have your two baby girls, right?
Hmm.
So let's move to that part of it,
Oh
right?
Lord.
So what was that feeling,
Mm.
after all the loss that you had endured to now you got a baby girl, right? Your
Yeah.
first one, your first
Yeah.
baby girl, right?
Whew.
Um,
It was a lot of prayers. I come from a praying family. My
yeah.
daddy's a deacon and my
Yes.
stepmother, she prays, and grandma was alive at the time.
Yes.
And everybody was just praying me up. My mother, everybody was, even when I didn't
Yeah.
want to pray, because what am I praying for?
Yeah.
That's how I felt. So I
Right.
had people standing in the gap for me. I have a good
Mm.
friend in New Jersey. So when I got pregnant with the first kid, I was still living. Both of these babies are COVID babies, by the way. So that's a whole different story with different
Right,
challenges
right,
during that
right,
time. But I had to
right.
go back to my perinatalogist in New Jersey, and she was gracious enough to allow me to stay in her home until my older daughter came. And
Oh
when
wow.
I saw her, I was in love. Like still
Oh
afraid, because like what's gonna happen.
yeah.
There's still that fear in the back of my mind that something will go wrong. But when I met her, everything just melted away. And
Oh
yeah, I was happy. That's the best way to put it.
yeah.
And then when my other daughter came less than a year later,
Yeah. Yeah.
I was, yeah, they're two amazing girls,
They're so cute and
thriving,
sweet.
yeah,
Yeah.
thriving, friendly, happy.
Yeah.
So the blessings did come, and I'm very, very grateful for them. But it wasn't easy, but here we are. So there's hope.
Yeah.
There's hope. And there are some women who have gone through, I've met somebody who've had 9 miscarriages,
Mm.
right? And she's still trying to have a baby. So there are
Mm.
some people who that dream may never materialize. And that's a whole other conversation. But providing that there are no underlying medical reasons, if you're somebody who
Mhm.
wants to keep trying, there's hope. There is
Mhm.
hope. And my story
Now,
is a testimony.
your two girls, they were conceived. They were conceived
Naturally, yeah,
naturally.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
So I didn't have any issues getting pregnant. I had an issue staying pregnant.
Staying pregnant.
That was the
Got
issue.
you.
The issue was I got pregnant very easily.
Yeah.
Clearly, back to back to back to back.
Clearly.
Sometimes 2 times in a year. And
Uh-huh.
yeah, so the fertility wasn't the issue. It was just figuring out how to go through the
Yeah.
pregnancy in a healthy way. So yeah, there is that. But there's a lot to learn. There's a lot I did not know prior to my
Mhm.
experience. Again, I question, like, why did I have to learn all of these?
Yeah.
Vicarious learning is a thing. I didn't have to experience it
Yeah.
directly, but
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. I
here I
think the
am.
story, going through, I mean, I just I couldn't imagine. But again, I say I lead with the word resilient,
Mm,
right? Because your story can cross so many lines when it comes down to timing and what we feel and think that how things are supposed
mm-hmm,
to go
mm-hmm.
and how we give up too early sometimes, right? And you know, the whole, well, why me? And I always say, well, why not you?
Yeah,
And if not you, who would you give it to?
that's after
Right.
the fact, though. When you're
Yeah.
going through it,
Yeah.
when
It's
just a
hard.
point out there, when people are experiencing losses of
Yeah.
any kind, I mean, I think sometimes we don't know how to stay silent. We feel like we have to have something to say, but silence is golden. I mean, there are things that I hear, platitudes we call them, the Lord won't give you more than you can bear. And while it's true, I would say to allow the individual who is experiencing the loss to get to that place themselves. Because
Yes.
again, going through a miscarriage and having the doctor saying this or that, I wasn't amused. I was angry, you know. So I mean, why not me would have come after I
Yeah.
went through or, you know, have gotten to a place in my journey to ask that
Yeah.
question because I was furious. Like, why me? Kind
Yeah.
of a thing. So a lot of these things that we ask ourselves, it's really in hindsight and it would come from a place of
Yeah.
growth.
Yeah.
But going through
Absolutely.
it, don't tell me
Just what?
nothing. Yeah. I don't want to hear anything.
Excuse
Bless
me,
you.
y'all. My allergies. My goodness.
Bless you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Simone, you do a lot of work surrounding grief, right?
Mhm.
And again, the show was talking about heartbreak to hope and just navigating that whole the loss, but also finding your purpose. So
Mhm.
talk to me about how you took your pain and then you turned it into purpose.
Yeah. Again, it took me a while to get
Mm-hmm.
there. So a lot of us as therapists, we're trained as such, right? But I think, well, I'm actually a certified grief counselor,
Yes.
right? And the things I learned throughout that training, I wouldn't have known it had I not gone through that
Right.
training, right? So
Right.
for me, I wanted to know more, and that required further learning, further
Mm-hmm.
education. So I knew, so there's always method to my madness. I'll be doing this, that, but in my mind, I know it's gonna come together.
Mm-hmm.
So I know I want to help people who share similar experiences like I have, and I want to help people who are grieving any type of loss. So I
Mm-hmm.
kept working in that direction. I knew that was the end goal. I still know that that's my purpose. Even though I do therapy part time, I still have
Mm-hmm.
a plan. So as it relates to the purpose, I sought the proper education that was required. I'm still learning. I'm always learning. Right now, I'm completing 2 courses. Don't ask me why. At the same time, but I'm doing a perinatal bereavement
Okay.
course because at the end of the day, there are things that I know by virtue of my personal experience, but there's also more to learn.
Yeah.
And having gone through pretty much most of the course, I'm like, I didn't know that
Yeah.
kind of a thing.
Yeah.
I'm also doing a, what is it called? A prolonged grief disorder. So everything will
Mm.
align at the end
Mm-hmm.
of the day. So I know my purpose is to help people who are in a similar situation than I am. And again, I guess I'm special. I was chosen to feel that pain, go
Yeah.
through the tears. That's just my way of comforting myself. Like I
Yeah.
said, I could have gone through life without all of this,
Right, right,
but
right.
having survived, I'm going to use all of that, the support I
Mm-hmm.
had. And there are many people out there who don't have support. as as
Absolutely.
as simple as it
Absolutely.
sounds. You have people around you who are judgmental. Some people won't take the time to listen. Some people are offering advice instead of listening. So I want to be that ear for people who need somebody to talk to.
Yeah.
And that's the thing about grief. Again, silence is a big tool.
Right.
We feel like we have to solve problems, which is what we were really taught.
Right.
We're supposed to help people to solve their problems, but I think I'm a good listener. So it's really
Mm-hmm.
just standing in the gap for people and listening to their stories, allow them to talk about their loved ones or their losses or that, in their own
Mm-hmm.
time.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my purpose, to help people who have been in similar situations or who have experienced any type of loss, in the best way I can. And as a part of that is to just seek whatever education I need to be there for people in
Yeah.
those situations.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. And I know that again, you said you're a certified, grief
Hmm.
therapist as well. And I think a lot of people struggle with grief versus depression
Hmm.
and what that looks like. But people also struggle with I had a question asked to me is like, am I should I be grieving differently? Should I be more upset because of the loss that they have? And my
Hmm.
answer to them was everybody grieves differently.
We all love
It
differently, so we're gonna
Yeah,
grieve
we love
differently.
differently, we grieve differently. It's not gonna look the same,
Yeah, and it's not a competition. There's actually
Right.
something called competitive grief.
Right.
It is not
Yeah.
a competition, and that's a whole different lecture for a different time.
Yeah.
But there is no right or wrong way to grieve, But I
Mhm.
think, like where I'm from, if you're not throwing yourself on the ground and wheeling around,
Right.
you're not feeling.
Yeah.
Who told you that? You know,
Yeah.
I am more somebody who will, even when I'm excited, I'll be sitting like this because I feel it inside. So I
Uh-huh.
get into trouble with that. Like, but I'm like, I'm happy, but you don't
Right.
show it.
You're not showing
Right.
it.
So I'll be dying inside or happy
Right.
inside, but I'll be sitting
Yeah.
there just looking like,
Yeah.
so I'm oftentimes misunderstood from that
Yeah.
angle as well. But it's not your place to judge or
Mm-hmm.
determine how somebody should grieve or what grief should
Mm-hmm.
looks like. Again, we don't all love the same way, so we won't grieve the same way.
Right.
And it's gonna be done in your own time.
Absolutely.
It's a cycle that goes back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there is no right or wrong way to do it.
It reminds me of I remember growing up and watching like certain cases. I've always been into like I wanted to be a forensic psychologist. So I love shows like Criminal
Oh
Minds,
yeah,
and those are
true
my
crime.
shows, right? So I will watch like cases, real stories that has happened where um a couple may have lost their child or child was murdered or
Mhm.
whatever the case may be. And later down the years when they will follow up with these parents, most of the couples split. They were
Mhm.
not
Mhm.
together.
Mhm.
And I could not understand. I'm like, wow, you would think that it would bring a person closer together. But then when I start understanding grief
Yeah.
and how people grieve, and because it looks different with a mom and it looks different with the dad,
Mhm.
and maybe one person is at a different level or stage and the other person is resenting them because they're
Mhm.
at this stage, and that's what causes
Yeah.
the turmoil in the relationship.
Mhm.
That's what causes people to grow apart. So I always find that very interesting, but I understand it now. I
Yeah.
didn't understand it then, but I understand it now.
Yeah.
When I became a therapist and learned more about
Mhm.
grief and how
Mhm.
people grieve differently.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because even with the twins, I was there crying that my husband was on Facebook. I'm
Mm.
like,
Yeah.
but in
Yeah.
hindsight, and again after doing the course and knowing all I
Yeah.
know now, I was not too thrilled. Like, didn't you just
Mm-hmm.
lose your two sons? Why are we
Right.
laughing? And
Right.
of course the resentment, built
Yeah.
up because I just wanted to, but
Right.
in hindsight, and like you said, men and women grieve
Yeah.
differently.
It's
That was his
different.
way of coping. Because even though when he's stressed, you'll see him just scrolling. That's just his
Mm-hmm.
outlet.
Mm-hmm.
Mine looks differently. It doesn't mean that my way is right or
Right.
his way is wrong.
Right.
It's just how we
It's
cope.
just
Yeah,
different.
in different scenarios, you'd find that, I do hear,
Mm-hmm.
the chair is where a lot of stories get told. Even for men, the
Mm-hmm.
barbershop is where a lot of stories get told,
Right.
right?
Right.
Some people choose to speak while some people may turn to alcohol or drugs, so the
Mm-hmm.
outlets look different for everybody. Again, we would want to not go to that extreme, but
Right.
it will look differently. And as it relates to the split, maybe there were issues in the
Mm-hmm.
marriage or the relationship before,
Yeah.
and the different
Yeah.
grieving styles just further tear them apart.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
it's a
And
whole
then you have the
dynamic.
underlining blame, right?
Exactly.
The underlining blame in some way, whatever those cases, whatever was going on,
Hmm.
then you have that blame. Well, you were supposed to be watching her
Exactly.
or whatever
Yep.
the case
Yep.
may be.
Hmm.
So we do grieve differently. And
Differently.
I think that's why it's so important that, communication is so important, but it's very hard
It's
to
hard.
communicate, to convey how you're feeling and
Yeah.
what you're feeling, because you don't even know yourself what you're feeling, right?
Yeah.
You're
That's true.
If you're questioning God about certain things, then how can I even have a conversation with you when the
Exactly.
the the, the reason of my existence I'm even questioning at this point?
And I don't even know how I feel sometimes.
Right.
It's common for us back home to say I
Right.
feel some type of way. What does that mean?
Right.
So I have a whole feeling wheels from my client, like, are you feeling this or that? But at
Mm-hmm.
the time, sometimes you just can't find the words to
Yeah.
articulate how you're even feeling. So how are you gonna have a whole conversation if I
Right.
can't tell you exactly how I'm
Right.
feeling? I know
Absolutely.
something is going on and
Mm-hmm.
something is going on for you, but again, this is where therapists and support would
Yeah.
come in. They would bridge the gap. So we
Yeah.
could kind of get to a place. We have our little skills. We could tease out certain things and get
Right.
them to a place where, we kind of have an understanding of, I guess, where each other are, but
Yeah.
unfortunately, it doesn't always work out
Yeah.
for every couple.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. So moving into therapy,
Hmm.
how, if someone is listening and they're just like, you know what, I need to I need to talk to you. I need to reach out to you because either one, I want to prevent as much as I can of this happening to me, or hey, this has happened to me.
Mm-hmm.
How can people reach out to you? Are you taking any new clients?
Yes,
Okay.
I'm taking new clients. I can be found at the Center for Child Development.com,
Mm-hmm.
and my email address is Simone, Simone, at the Center for Child Development.com. That's it. No,
Yeah.
yeah. Or you can
Yeah.
you can call the office 302
292
292
334.
1334. Right. Or I'm an Amani
Yeah. Amani
Healing
Healing and
and
Therapy
Therapy
Center.
Center. You can reach because we
Absolutely.
do educational sessions from time to time.
Yes.
So you can find
Yeah.
me on any of those platforms. If you call the office, they will route you through to me. I have a personal line now. I do not know the number. But if you call the office or email
For
me, and I will
sure.
definitely reach out, because I know in just talking to people
Mm-hmm.
outside of therapy that these conversations are important. There are a lot of people
Mm-hmm.
who want to have these conversations, but they are being judged or they're afraid of being judged.
Yeah.
So again, it's about
Yeah.
finding that safe space where, somebody will listen to you, not because they have the
And
experience. Yes.
understand. And
That's the word.
understand that
Yeah.
that right. It's nothing like being able to connect with someone
Yeah.
that really truly understands your
Understands.
journey. It's just so different.
And I say that word with caution, because even if I meet somebody who has had
Yeah.
7 miscarriages and 8 pregnancy
Still
losses,
different
I still don't
experience. Yeah.
understand. There are different factors that
Yeah.
would, inform how they feel, or maybe
Yeah.
maybe they weren't sad. We assume that because somebody have
Right.
a loss that they're even cut up about it. So
Yeah.
again, that's a whole different story. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's just
Very
coming
true.
from a place of listening
Mm-hmm.
and finding out what the person needs. So I
Yeah.
like to ask my clients, like, okay, why are you here? They're like,
Mm-hmm.
for therapy. I'm like, yeah, but what can I really do for you? Because
Yeah.
I can't lead with the assumption that this is what they want
Right.
or this is how they feel. Because I've met people who have had pregnancy losses and they were
Mm-hmm.
thrilled.
Mm-hmm.
Wrong spouse, wrong
Mm-hmm.
partner, whatever the case is, they weren't ready.
Mm-hmm.
People are thrilled. So I
It's
can't
very
come
true.
from
It's
a
a good
place
point.
of,
Yeah.
assuming that this is what they want. So I like to
Yeah.
ask questions first, and again, just try to be non-judgmental,
Yeah.
because again, I'm human. So sometimes I'll be like, but of course I would never, lead,
Uh-huh.
sorry, a therapy session from that perspective. But
Yeah,
yeah,
that's a good point.
yeah.
That's a good point. So, as Simone said, we have a Mani Healing and Therapy Center, and we Simone put together a group for mommies, for mommy burnout, right? And or maternal health, maternal burnout.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and we're going to be playing that back. We're going to put some more dates out there if you guys are looking to be able to be supported by a group. Mommy burnout is real.
Mm-hmm.
Let's normalize that, right? It doesn't mean that you're a bad mom. It doesn't mean that you're not doing what you need to do. It just means that sometimes as moms we need to practice our self-care. We need to take care of ourselves so we can be
Yeah.
better for our
Mm-hmm.
children,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
um so we're going to be putting out more dates with the mommy burnout, but we're also going to be putting that on the website for Mommy Healing Therapy Center. You can have a self-paced mommy burnout
Of course.
course
Mm-hmm.
that Simone has created, and that should be going up in the next couple weeks, I would say. So just look out for that, and that's again Amani, AMANI Healing and Therapy Center. Go to the website and just keep an eye on that. But we're also going to be restarting the group. There's only going to be 8 slots available. So if that's something that you're interested in, you guys can reach out to me directly. You know my information, or again, contact Simone at the Center for Child Development and say, hey, I'm interested. Rather you're interested in the mommy burnout group, or you're interested in just getting some help in therapy, or even just having a conversation with Simone.
Okay.
Please feel free to take advantage and reach out and connect, right? Because you're not alone. You're
Mm-hmm.
not alone.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
And can I say something? Don't
yeah.
be afraid. Don't be afraid. Not because I'm a therapist, mean I'm, highty tighty. I'm not that,
Mm-hmm.
right? I'm a
Mm-hmm.
human first, and again, I've had first-hand experience. So I think too that people may be afraid, the group is therapist
Mhm.
led, but
Mhm.
it's really a non-judgmental space as it relates to
Yeah.
the maternal support group, burnout support group. I did a video on Amani, so go check it out. I've been to that place where, and I suffered with guilt a little bit because eight
Mm.
miscarriages, why am I should be ecstatic, but
Mhm.
please, after two children, I'm like, I am tired, and like Shea
Yeah.
said, it doesn't make me a bad mom. I can be tired and still love my children. I can need a
Yes.
break and still love my
Yes.
children. It doesn't have to
Yes.
be either or,
Yeah.
so don't be afraid, don't feel guilty. There's a difference between feeling guilty and actually being guilty. So I don't
Mhm.
think we're guilty of anything because we're doing what we're supposed to do as mom, but we feel guilty because the expectation is this or the expectation is that.
Right.
So
Right.
even though it's a therapist led session, I will be amongst everybody sharing my story. And I do understand that some people may not be able to make it to a group setting. Not everybody
Mhm.
fits into a
Mhm.
group setting for
Mhm.
whatever
Yeah.
reason,
Yeah.
or even want to be a part of a group setting. So that's where the self-paced course would come in. And you can always refer back to it whenever you want. Because again, Saturday mornings is a little bit rough for some
Mhm.
people with it. You
Mhm.
want a break from the kids
Yeah.
and they're there, So for those
Yeah.
people who won't be able to make it to the actual sessions, you can do the self-paced
Yeah.
training. But I know that the need is there because this is a
Absolutely.
running theme that has been coming up in my therapy sessions
Mhm.
amongst moms. And just by overhearing conversations, I keep abreast
Mhm.
of a lot of perinatal things online, and it's real, So it's nothing to be ashamed of. We've all been there at one point or the other.
Mhm.
If you're not been there, you're gonna get there at some point in
Yeah.
time, because again, we're human and we get overwhelmed. And
Yeah.
just to share a little bit, as it relates to the perinatal mental health disorder, it's more than just depression. We have perinatal OCD, perinatal
Mm.
psychosis, so many other um what's the word I'm looking for? Perinatal mental health issues, right? But the most common one, or the one that we're familiar with most, is depression,
Yeah.
right? So I just want to point out, given that we're in maternal mental health
Right.
awareness month, that just pay attention to those who are around you, not necessarily those who just gave birth. Sometimes these things just never go away. And for new moms, they refer to it as a smiling depression, right? So
Mm.
you are a new mom, you're dying inside, but how dare you say that because you should be happy? You just gave
Right.
birth to a bundle of
Right.
joy. So we're
Right.
smiling and pushing through the pain, but we're dying
Yeah.
inside. So pay attention to those around you. I have so
Yeah.
much more I can say, but I'm gonna stop talking.
No, that just means that you have to come back, right? She
I
did
don't
such a
mind.
great job. She has to come back and talk more on it because and I would love for you to come back and talk more because I think that it's important to make sure that the information is being put
It's
out there.
needed. It is needed.
It's needed. I know that there's people that are listening and probably had no idea
Mhm.
with a lot of the things that you shared
Yeah.
tonight. They had no idea. And those of you that are listening, if you would like to put a question in the chat that maybe we did not answer tonight, just put it in there and I'll make sure that I consult with Simone and see if we can get the answer to whatever questions that you may have. Or if there's a story, if you have a story and you want to share your story, reach out to me because that's what this platform is about.
Mhm.
And again, it's about just getting the information out there, normalizing these conversations,
Mhm.
and finding a way to renew, rebuild, and restore, right?
Yeah.
So
It's a journey.
yeah, it's a journey. Healing is a journey. There's
Yeah, I
never
was
a
waiting for you
destination.
to ask me what my definition of healing is. I've been watching the show and I'm like, when is she gonna ask me what healing is?
What's your definition of healing, Simone?
I still don't know. I've been thinking about it, like, hearing everybody who has been on the platform,
Hmm.
everybody's definition of healing is different based on their experience. So
Right.
for me, my journey, Simone's journey, it's
Yeah.
it's been raw, it's
Hmm.
been ugly, it's been beautiful, it's been
Hmm.
messy. Sometimes it looks a little bit tidy. But for me,
Hmm.
healing is just all of that, that it just never goes away.
Yeah.
I don't think there'll ever be a point where I can say I'm healed.
Hmm.
It's always healing, and because life
Yeah.
is life and something new is gonna come. And
Yeah.
again, I lost the twins in 2019. Here I am in 2025. still feeling hurt about it. So it never goes away. It just ebbs and flow, you know. So it's
Absolutely.
just an up and down journey of
Yeah.
sadness. It's raw, it's beautiful, it's ugly, it's messy, and it really shapes who I am, you know. So
That was an
that's my definition for
that
you.
was an amazing definition. That was a great definition. I
Yeah.
loved it. It's
Yeah,
raw, it's
it's
hurtful, it's
ugly,
beauty,
it's
it's ugly,
beautiful, it's
it's all of
messy.
those things.
Sometimes it looks a little bit tidy,
Yeah.
but at the end of the day, it's just a continuous journey that's been shaping who
Mhm.
I am personally
Mhm.
as well as professionally.
I think that was a great
Yeah,
definition because that's what it is. It is supposed to shape you,
yeah, yeah.
you know. And it's not going to always look pretty. It's not always going to
Mm-mm.
feel good, right? This was so powerful. Thank you. Thank
You're
you for the
welcome. Thank you for
conversation.
having me.
Yeah, thank you for the conversation. So
Yeah.
again, guys, if you are looking to reach out to Simone, again, you go to Simone at the Center for Child Development.com, or simply just go call 302-292-1334, ask to be transferred to her extension. And again, if you have your own story that you want to share, or if you have questions that maybe we didn't get to tonight, or you would like to have more insight on it, please reach out to me. Drop a comment in the chat box, or you can DM me directly, and I'll make sure that we get the answers to your questions. Simone, any last minute words for you?
Yeah, advocate for yourself.
Yes.
Speak up, speak up. Even
Yes.
if you're afraid, I don't know, write it down. You have some little comment box in business areas. Put
Mm-hmm.
your concerns out there. Don't be afraid
Mm-hmm.
to engage in discussions like these. People are always gonna have something to say. At the end of the day, if it's gonna benefit you, speak up. Speak up
Mm-hmm.
on your behalf and find somebody who is probably loudmouth than if you're more on the reserve side, but advocate for yourself, because especially as a black woman, you know, woman of color, however you want
Yeah.
to phrase it, it is a
Mm-hmm.
little bit different for us, you know, out there. So advocate
Definitely.
for yourself, advocate for yourself, advocate for yourself.
Yes.
That is all.
Thank you,
You're
Simone. Thank
welcome.
you. And thank you guys for tuning in to the Rebirth Podcast. We're here every Monday at 7 p.m. Remember, it's time to renew, rebuild, and restore. Until next Monday, you guys have a blessed week. Good night.